Did I say something wrong?
No, not your way of running.
I just know Inessa won't be available today.
I seem to remember her saying something last week. Is that correct?
Yes, she's out in Cape Town at a hub, what we call a hub meeting.
Okay. All right, Bradley, build the container.
Okay, so this is Bradley checking in. Great to see you guys again. I think this morning I'm feeling it's kind of hot here today, very hot here today. I'm out in Vredendal. So I'm feeling hot but refreshed. Mark, how are you doing?
Thanks, Bradley. I'm feeling fantastic. A little bit overwhelmed with all the. I'm busy with my step one at the moment, and I need to be doing more on the modules. I feel like I've got an admin overload at the moment. I will tag KD.
Kelly,
Hi.
you've been tagged.
Sorry. I only just started hearing now. Did someone tag me? Sorry.
No problem.
Sure, yeah. So, I missed the beginning. So sorry I'm a little bit late, guys. Tagging in, feeling excited and inspired for a lot of projects I'm thinking of working on in the next coming months. So yeah, feeling good and positive. Who hasn't gone yet? Tag Josh.
I was also a bit late, Kayleen, don't worry. Josh tagging in, feeling really good. Gotten a lot of stuff done today. I also did nothing as per my homework. So yeah, I'm feeling accomplished and I'm feeling ready for today's session. And then I'll tag, I don't know if you've gone, Bradley, have you? Okay, well, Dalray's just joined, so them.
Hi. Delray's new to the container, so if you can just tag somebody else, Josh.
I'm not sure who hasn't been tagged,
Okay.
Leanne.
I'll check in. How's it, Delray? I'm glad you managed to get on this week. We're just checking in. So just if you can introduce yourself with a name and a feeling. I'm checking in on Leanne. I am feeling, yeah, sad.
Ba, 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 ba. Is this gonna work?
We can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Delray. I am, gosh, I have a lot of mixed feelings. I've been having a rough time lately, but also feeling blessed at the same time. Yeah, and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Nice to meet you, Delray. My name's David, and I'm checking in from a cool London. Let's see what the temperature's like outside of my little box. It
Can't
is.
really hear you, David.
How's that? Is that any better?
Better, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm David. I'm checking in from my little box in London. It's 8 degrees outside. And yeah, welcome to the recovery coaching training. This is week number 9. Is that correct? Yeah. So by week 9, we should have covered the continuums, the coaching conversation, the continuums, and now we're starting to move into the system. Now, recovery is essentially getting back what the addiction took away from you, and it's a systemic problem. And what that means is you'll have one person that's using in an environment, and that person's behavior impacts the system. That might be the work system, it might be the family system, it might be the country system, whatever. But we're starting to think now how we can use coaching as a skill set to shift the culture of that system from one of addiction, which is in crisis, chaos, and conflict, to one of recovery, yeah, which is a strengths-based, co-creative, collaborative conversations, yeah. So I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to talk to you about your strengths and where you want to go forward, as opposed to going back into the past and digging in the past to try and find out what the problem was. Does that make sense to everyone? Do my esteemed colleagues concur with me? Yeah? Okay. So just before we kick off, yeah, just try and put yourself in Del Rey's shoes. Yep, who's joining this class first time. What do you think Del Rey might be feeling? Are you okay if we do this, Del Rey? Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. And you started off with some like, I'm in a difficult space at the moment. So let's just see what the other coaches have to say about this. Josh.
Del Rey, you're going to learn very quickly that I do not shut up. So my hand's going to be up all the time. I can't imagine what it's like to be Del Rey in Del Rey's shoes. But what I will say is I can imagine that you're feeling a bit curious, a bit apprehensive, a bit unsure, not really sure what this is about, what value it might have for you, or whether it's the right thing for you. Maybe, like me, you have so many other things going on in your life. So you're thinking about that and not really about the potential of this. I think you might be feeling a little bit like up in the air about it all, which is why I'm so excited that you're part of this container, because it can be quite grounding. And yeah, Bradley, take it away.
Thanks there, Josh. And belated birthday to you, Josh. I heard you celebrated a birthday last week. So yeah, for Del Rey, I think I missed out last week, Del Rey, and I'm already sitting here and trying to anticipate. I wonder what the conversation was like last week within the container. And I think when David kicked off and said we're in week 9, I think if I was the first time stepping in, not quite sure where this at, I would be thinking, whoa, are they that far already? So it could be quite overwhelming. But what I love about the container, I will say, like Josh is saying, you quickly find your rhythm within the container. So yeah, so I'm just hoping you would jump quickly onto that and just find your rhythm.
What else? Mark, Kelly?
I will just say I can't imagine what it must be like. I think pretty much what everyone else has said, but I think it's about recognizing the anxiety and speaking about it helps. I think like David said, just acknowledging how you're feeling and where you're at. And this is a very safe, encouraging space with people that are very, very easy to talk to and relate with. I'm very mindful of the concept of not crapping. So I just think it's best to just take a breath and be at ease. You're in a great space.
Kelly?
So I think we each can relate to having those feelings and being in a space like that. Although the things that lead us to get to that space all look very different. We've all had different circumstances and different things that cause us to feel certain ways. So I think we can all relate. We've never been in your shoes, but we can relate to the feelings that come up and the feelings that you've expressed. And I'm really glad that we're able to have this safe space as well for where all of those feelings are welcome. And I hope that I think that building connections with others and also feeling safe to share your feelings and hearing that others are going through similar experiences can be so cathartic, or that's not really the right word, but it can be, reassuring and make us feel less alone. So I hope that that's what will come from today's session, is to feel less alone in it.
Okay, great. So I just want to take the floor for a bit. So in traditional learning environments, you start the academic year in January or February, or if you're over in the UK here, it's in September, which is really just kind of the spring and the start of summer. And in South Africa, it's like kind of in the summertime, and then you join a class, and then you go through academic content, and then you write exams throughout the year, and you pass or fail at the end of the year. Yep. This learning environment is a rolling program, and it's structured like somebody would come into the clinic or join one of our programs. So in a clinic, you have the therapeutic environment, and newcomers come in all the time. And people that have been in the clinic for a while, they can then gauge from the newcomer how far they're doing in their journey. Yep. And the learning environment has a place of kind of teaching lectures and things that the patient will learn while they're in that environment. So we've structured a similar content here, but it can be quite a shock for people when they come into this learning environment, because the feeling is, where's the theory? Where's the practice? Where's the content? Where they're very used to a linear approach to learning. And in this environment, we create a classroom where we practice the art of coaching, we learn through that, and we go through the process. Yeah. So there's the theory and the practice. So the theory, you'll have all the online content to go through, the manuals and everything. The practice coaching, you will practice as you get to learn this stuff. And in this container of 20 weeks, you will be sitting in the process of coaching, learning in the environment. Yep. So there's going to be some jargon you're going to learn, like checking in, contracting, building the container. Do you mind if I swear? Yep. Okay, great. So that's part of contracting. How do I interact with you? Is it okay if I swear? So if I was in your shoes and I arrived here, I would think, what the fuck is going on here? Oh my God. Yeah, I'd feel quite overwhelmed with that environment. Yeah, so really welcome. Enjoy the ride. And what we do is, when we build the container, we then ask, what's the agenda that the container wants to talk about? And when we get the agenda, we're learning as we bring in different coaching skills into the container. Would Mark, Bradley, Kayleen, and Josh agree with that? Yeah. Is this working for you? It's a yes/no question. Yeah, because me and Leanne on the outside are trying to work out, you know, what's best for you as a container and as students that are going out into the world to take this coaching skill set. Yeah, so please give us feedback of what we can do better. Yeah. All right. Now, just before we kick off today's class, was there any homework from last week? So Delray, whenever you're working with a client, you'll contract for a number of sessions. So I've just contracted for 20 sessions. And at the end of each session, you want to forward the action and deepen the learning. And you will say something like, okay, so what's your homework? What do you want to do? What you're going to bring to next week to take you to the desired life that you want to live? Okay. And this is where we hold the students accountable. What was your homework and did you do it? Kayleen?
Right, so the homework was to find something that will help take you on the journey to becoming a better coach. That's what I had written down here.
Wonderful.
And I think that's, yeah, So are we supposed to each give our own example of what we did?
That would work for me. What would work for you?
Yeah, so it's not something that I would say I consciously recorded or wrote down, but I did have a really great coaching session with Inessa on Friday, where we spoke a lot about sort of the things we have set out for ourselves over the next few weeks. And I feel like for me it was more a mental thing. It was checking in with myself mentally, reminding myself that I need to talk to myself in a certain way to be kind to myself, but also be proactive, be curious, be all of the things that I think would make me a better coach to someone else. So if I can't coach myself, how am I going to coach someone else? And it doesn't have to be so strict, but rather to say that if I can learn to speak to myself in a certain way, I can coach others on speaking to themselves in that way, and structuring their day in such a way that works for them, that meets them where they're at in that specific moments. So I think I'm in a much better space than I was, let's say, a week ago before my coaching session with Inessa, because it's more focused. And so it's not something specific I can pinpoint, but rather just the internal narrative for me at this point.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Kelly. Mark.
So I had an interesting experience yesterday. Oh, sorry, not yesterday. Last week, Wednesday, after our coaching session, in the afternoon, we have like a family group here at the clinic. And the manager or the facilitator here at the clinic, her name's Marita. We were doing the family group, and then towards the end, the last half an hour, she proposed that we should like go off with our families and I don't know, like hear what our families' expectations are of us. And then I don't know how it happened, but she suggested, or rather, let's Mark, you doing the recovery coaching, maybe you can take the next half an hour to sort of practice a little bit within the space, talking to the family. And it went really, really well. It was such great. I had a good rapport with everyone, and I got a lot from it. That we kind of, Marita said, going forward, she will allocate some time within that space to sort of, dance around with me for some practice. So I took the observing that you recommended I do, and then I kind of like, got a bit of that. So that was very rewarding for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Josh.
So my homework was kind of the same, but different. Mine was a little bit more guarded. So in the sense, my homework was to do nothing, or like learn to be comfortable with maybe just doing nothing and just relaxing and being with myself and my feelings and just experiencing them. And that in itself is the homework for everyone else, in the sense of it is something that would help me be a better coach. And I did that. And what I found is it kind of gave me space, at least like mentally, to listen a little bit deeper to others in my life. Like I really connected with my partner over the weekend and some family. And I felt like because I took that time to kind of, just do nothing and be okay with that and not put so much pressure and be so hard on myself, it kind of freed up a lot of space. So there wasn't a lot of noise in my head, and I was able to be really present with the people that I cared about. And it felt like a very pragmatic, real life example of like how, doing that self-work can kind of open you up to help others and be there with others. So that was really cool. So I'm glad that I did that. But now I'm ready to do things again. I don't want to do nothing anymore. It's horrible.
Bradley?
Okay, so I wasn't actually aware of what the homework was. But what
Yay! Somebody do it. Fantastic.
Interesting enough, I was actually this morning and last night with my peer groups. We just had a meeting together and we were just chatting about things and actually gauging just where each of us are at. And I think for me, it was good to hear where they perceive me to be at with the people that I'm busy coaching. Because I think personally, I get to that point of where I'm questioning myself, but do I actually still see a difference? Is things happening? Am I still doing things right? Or not right, but in a way that people are still growing. And I think it was good to hear from others that you still you're moving in the right direction. Yeah, so that was good for me. So I think that was kind of in line with our homework without me knowing.
It's magic, huh?
Ah.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. So for you, Del Rey. So for you, Lee. All right. Let me see if I can fix that.
It's a little bit soft when you speak, David.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any better? Is there any better? Okay, cool. So I've just gone to Zoom and turned up my mic volume. So let's see how that goes. All right, great. So well done. So Leanne, how are you feeling about where we're going with the container and what the students are getting, and what do we need to add, tweak, me and you in our dance?
I think that's a question you need to ask the students, David.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking us as the facilitators as well, we've got a kind of an overarching kind of requirement to make sure that the theory is being understood, that the practice is happening, and the skill is being developed. And I know for one, I can focus on often one part of a program or something which is nice, and then neglect another part. So one of the things I'm really guilty of is admin, paperwork, invoicing, billing, things like that, which because I love the I'm going to say being a hero in a crisis type coaching, but the boring stuff I can often neglect, and that doesn't serve the client. It doesn't serve the student. It doesn't serve, it's a poor boundary at times. Am I making sense to the class?
Absolutely, David. And if I could chime in, it's like,
Please.
when you were describing what your goal is with how this is structured and how it's not linear, it's 100% how this course is. And I think this touches on something that Leanne's brought up, something that me and Kayleen have discussed coming from the psych world, is that me and Kayleen, when it comes to theory, we know our shit. Like, we know it. But put us in a room, okay, maybe not Kayleen. Kayleen has some coaching experience, but like, put us in a room with people and we don't have that practical experience. So in terms of feedback, I think it's really refreshing to have this kind of dance of like learning and then thinking about how it relates, because that's how you learn in real life. You know, like I don't remember taking a walking course when I was 2. I don't know when people start walking. Like, it just happened naturally, and you fall and you get up and then you do something else for a little while and you like discuss things around it. And I think that's great. And I think, a way that we can move forward in the container is to, dive deeper into some of these concepts, like things like the continuum, the 3 C's, the 3 A's, what that can look like, and just go deeper, discuss it a little bit more, think about like what issues do you guys think you might face when coaching? What problems do you maybe have with the material? What do you find interesting? What are your main takeaways? I mean, I think that gives a lot of insight into what's really resonating in terms of the content with us, like all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's where I feel like it might be useful for us to move forward. Yeah.
Del Rey, you got your hand raised up. How very brave. Wonderful. Jump in.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm like an ex-house mother at a rehab, and I always had this little saying for the girls, saying that maintenance plus consistency equals prevention. So I rely a lot on consistency. So like David, where you were saying about the admin, you know, whether it's the practical or the admin, whether it's the for or the behind or whatever, everything needs to be consistent, you know, and balanced. And yeah, I believe in daily maintenance with that. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Where were you a house mother?
At Diamond Recovery Center in Paris.
Okay. And are you still doing that?
I'm not there anymore. I'm not going to share why. It was a bit of a toxic situation, but yeah, it was there, but it was good. I finished my program there and I worked there for a year after, and yeah.
And how are you feeling now? What's your next step in your journey?
In my journey now for the next step. So yeah, I've been feeling a bit worthless lately.
Okay.
I'm gonna get upset now. I'm sorry.
You're in absolutely the right place to get upset. So by all means, let everything go. You're more than welcome to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, we've got you. It's fine.
It was just I was so overproductive, but I was doing everything for everyone else's recovery, and my recovery was lacking.
So you're exhausted, huh?
I was,
Yeah.
just every which way. And right now I'm trying to build myself up more spiritually,
Okay.
so that I can, you know, feed my mental and my emotional and my physical state. Yeah.
Okay.
Very embarrassing.
Okay, so don't be embarrassed. This is a learning environment. It's a classroom where we learn about emotional intelligence is one of the things. And working in this field will eat you alive. And it sounds like you've been eaten alive and you've been spat out and you've got no self-worth. And it's like, what the fuck happened there? And now you're trying to recuperate. And I'm going to say this disease, as a metaphor, will just fucking suck you dry. People are like vampires.
Yeah.
And they'll come and they'll fuck you up. And you can bend over backwards for them, and then it's still not good enough. And it's really hard to separate and to get perspective at times. So it's really appropriate that we're now talking about boundaries and the process and this sort of stuff. So I really want to honor you for your courage for coming here and just talking so openly and authentically. For me, it has built trust in me. It's built love and care from me. It's like I'm really going to care for you. I'm not going to take advantage of that's come up. Yeah. But I really want to encourage you to do this, stick this out and to take that passion that you've got and to be able to put it in a way that's going to be protective of you. Okay. Now, me and Leanne can talk to you about the million times we find ourselves in this situation where we really get eaten alive. Yeah, there are times when you wake up in the morning and just think, what the fuck are we doing this for? Yeah. Okay. It's really nice to have you here, Delray. Yeah. Where do you stay now?
I'm in at the moment I'm in Bracken. I'm actually from Cape Town, but I'm in Brackenhurst at the moment in past Alberton, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're up at Joburg side. You've left that grotty Cape Town. God, Cape
No, I
Town's a
love
grotty
Cape Town.
place. Oh, it's terrorism. Fucking everyone goes on the mountain.
It's the best.
Yeah. Great. Lovely to have you here. And just notice my bringing in humor to try and ease the container a bit. Now, that might be my anxiety, It might also be my creativity. Bradley.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I think just for Delray, I think the most wonderful thing for me has been for this container is that, like Josh is saying, we can get very structured in because this is a class, this is what we want to learn. But I think what has been very welcoming, Delray, you'll pick up quickly, is that you don't actually know what to expect from the container. And I think that helps a lot, because when you step into the container, and then as the container is being built, it just gives you that ease that you can just bring yourself.
Well, thank you for not rubbing in that you're from Cape Town, Bradley. I really appreciate that. You're muted.
That was only originally, not anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to go next? Josh.
Yeah, I suppose what I just want to say is just that a lot of those feelings that you brought up, Delray, are I resonate with so much. Yeah, I wish you were here last week, eh? Like 100%. And I was on the verge of tears last week, because I think it's a very, very difficult thing to kind of feel a little bit useless and worthless. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but I mean, logically, I know I'm not, but like, it's so much easier for me to be hard on myself. And when I do slip up and, maybe start drinking a little bit more or partying a little bit too much, when I'm under that stress, it's very hard for me not to use that guilt and shame as ammunition to make myself feel even shittier and worse than I actually do. And I was, feeling a lot of the same feelings you were last week, and I came out of it, thank God. So yeah, I mean, last week we spoke a lot about burnouts and working on yourself. So I don't know if those recordings are still there. It'll be so useful for you to maybe go back and watch that and see that. I really applaud your bravery in sharing. It's really cool. I mean, we're all strangers here to you, I'm sure, but that won't be for very long. So I just wanted to comment on that. I couldn't not. So thank you.
And Josh, can I just comment how optically fantastic you look? Your couch is positioned perfectly balanced in the middle, the line of your shirt, you're sitting in the center.
I do have OCD, but mainly just intrusive thoughts. So sometimes this is, when you see everything aligned, I'm probably going through a tough time.
Oh, okay. That feels really sad for me.
Thank you. I'm glad I could make you feel that. No, I'm not. That's horrible. No, it was a bit of jest. I suppose my humor's a bit too dark. I need to gauge the room a little bit.
Okay. All right. So what have we learned so far this week? Knowing it's about the system. What are some of the things we've learned? Yes, Mark.
Well, we've gone over the coaching conversation, and then we've also done some discussion around building rapport with our clients, taking our client from a culture of addiction to a culture of recovery. We've spoken about the continuum, and then I think there's 3 different continuums that we were focusing on. The premature death to well-being, the use, the misuse, the abuse, and the dependence, and the codependent to the interdependent, independent, I think. Yeah. I think that's what we sort of discussed now in the last 2 or 3 sessions. I see Leanne's laughing. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Okay.
So, Mark, this is what I've learned about you. Yeah. You went and took a family group the other day. You got involved in supporting in a family group. A few weeks ago, you were really freaked out by being in the house and not being able to get the clients the right sort of support they needed, or they weren't, and you were very frustrated. And over these past few weeks, you've learned to observe, and your approach has already changed a lot. Yep, you've also your look, your physique, your teeth, that smile, your hair. Like, mate, you are getting well. I'm
Mm,
sorry to say this to you, but you are entering a culture of recovery.
mm. Definitely, and I'm very grateful to not only this coaching space that we have, but I mean, I have such an immense amount of gratitude for the foundation clinic, for the people that are here, for the therapeutic team. I mean, I even, as you know, was express my gratitude to Leanne this morning because we have a wellness space here where Leanne is the facilitator of that. And it's just the wealth of knowledge that Leanne has. Sorry, Leanne, I know I'm blowing smoke a little bit here, but it's something that truly, the fact that she takes so much, invests so much time in finding resources. And, she'll, in every session, she'll quote like, if you want to find out about this mental health thing, I know this incredible author that's written a book on da 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 da. And it's just a wealth of knowledge that I don't think necessarily some people appreciate. But it has been inspirational for me. And that goes across the board with regards to the team. And I honestly couldn't.
So Mark, yeah,
Hmm.
Leanne's generosity of wealth and knowledge has been abused.
I would definitely say so. Yeah, she's.
Yep, that's the nature of the field. Yep, Del Rey's generosity has been abused. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not.
It's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a proper fuck up. It's a proper fuck up. It's the nature of this, and Leanne's got some very strong emotions going on there. And I just want to bring some of focus to that, because us as coaches and facilitators, it's fucking hard at times. and people, particularly in the clinical world, are taught to hold their stuff in. Whereas in the coaching world, we're kind of encouraged to bring our authentic selves to the container, to model a way somebody can respond, and to learn by looking. So I loved Josh's analogy about nobody gave me a manual to learn to walk. He was like kind of sitting there crawling around being a rug rat. I can see the adults walking, standing on table, just falling down, that sort of stuff, and learned from being in his environment. Yeah? Okay.
Can I just make one more statement? It was
no.
Fine, I'm done. No, so with regards to holding space for large people and groups of people and trying to get well and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't present yesterday when Dan had a bit of a hard time. I heard about it afterwards, and so the last couple of weeks, I haven't really shared this with Leanne, but I've missed some sessions for the ones because I found that there were certain individuals that seemed to trigger frustration in me, and I can't believe, I always, when I was in that space, I think to myself, I don't know how Leanne can hold such a space for like 20 odd individuals. And you have people that are disrespectful at times, cross talking with one another or on their phones, or showing gross disrespect of the space and the others in the group and stuff like that. And it became, I have a short fuse also when it comes to those kind of behaviors. So I'll just detach a little bit so I don't have that lot of frustration. So I have to applaud Dan on the fact that she's able to sit there and not say, literally, fuck off out of here. I can't handle you anymore. Go. So that's just what my feelings on it.
Yeah. So Delray is obviously resonating with a lot of this because he's kind of sitting going, oh yeah, fuck, yeah, fucking, oh yeah, okay. All right. And let's just look at the system now. Yeah, the whole environment. So you're talking about a container that was created that is kind of leaking now. Because you know about information and you weren't there. And containers leak. So when people say everything here is confidential, don't worry, they're talking shit. Yeah. You can hold confidentiality because you're kind of professionals, but in the group setting or in the classroom setting, it's going to leak out. Yeah. And this is why I stress this environment is a learning environment. It's not therapy. So take responsibility for what you bring here. We are streaming this to an unlisted recording. And if at any time we feel like, oh shit, I went too far or something, yeah, we'll delete it straight away. But just like this is a type of space you're going to have to hold. So if you're working with an individual that comes from a family, I promise you the family are going to be impacted. Ooh, Mark's gone to rehab. I wonder if he's going to be telling that counselor about what a terrible father I was as a kid growing up because I beat him because I didn't get him the G.I. Joe toy or whatever it was. Yeah. Or whatever. Like this sort of stuff starts to play in the environment. When you do coaching in the corporate space, it's the same thing. Yeah. And a lot of coaches kind of want to get kind of transactional about stuff, which is fine, but it doesn't go very deep in terms of behavior change. Silent pause, waiting for feedback. Leanne,
Sorry,
you want
David.
to come in? I want to see if Leanne wants to come in now. She's smiling a little bit there. You want to share some of your wisdom, Lee?
No, thank you, Mark. I appreciate what you said. I'm too emotional, David.
Okay. All right. So I think that's also great that Leanne can actually say, fuck, guys, I'm too emotional now. And we're okay with that. This is a great learning environment. I really appreciate it. And it can be really triggering for people. And one of my challenges of working in the corporate space was bringing my authentic self to the environment. And people didn't kind of like that at times. So often the corporate environment has a whole lot of values that they stick on the wall, but the culture inside it doesn't live those values. And coaching in the corporate space is about working to influence the culture, the people to live the values of the organization. Delray, this is where we're going to find out about how the organization she worked with didn't live any of the values.
No. I just want to do carry on blowing some smoke up Leanne's bum.
Okay. Leanne, are you up for that?
I mean, this is the first time on here, and I've barely had any contact with Leanne. But when she posted that thing on Facebook, I think that was such a turning point for me. Like it came at a time when I really, really, really needed it. So I just want to thank Leanne. I did send her a message to thank her, but it was like spot on timing. Yeah, and I really needed that. So I'm just commending you, yeah, on your service. Thank you.
I enjoyed that post too. I thought that was brave of you, Lee. I've been hassling her for years to make video. Finally. Okay. Is your hand still raised, Del Rey? Or can I lower it? There we go. All right. Kayleen, where are you at?
I think, David, as Josh said earlier, we've done a lot of theory, but I think that seeing this raw emotion really reminds us of what we should expect from going into this sort of work. And I have so much respect for both of you, Leanne, and for you, David, and for Del Rey, and for everyone who's worked in a coaching capacity for many years. We're only just getting started out, and I think that this is such an important space to actually share with one another what we're going through, to make us feel less alone in that, and also to prepare ourselves for how things can get, but also to always find the hope, because I think that's what we're all constantly still chasing, is the hope that things will always get better, that there will be positive results, that even if there's one case that is a success, that's major, but to not fixate too much on that, but to see everything as a journey. So I'm really grateful, and I would really love to see that Facebook post. I'm really curious to see it now. Leanne, I'm wondering if you're willing to share the link to it, or to the video. Thank you so much. I think that would be really great to see.
So one of the challenges in coaching is to stay grounded. Yeah. So if our clients do well, our clients are doing well. If our clients are doing badly, our clients are doing badly. And it can be very seductive if the client's doing well, oh, fuck, I'm doing well. And then if a client's doing badly, oh, fuck, I'm a piece of shit. Yeah, it's hard work for that. And the things that are going to keep you grounded and in check is getting supervision around what's going on for you, so you can stay in the role. So you wake up in the morning, and then you go to work, and then you step into the role of a professional recovery coach. Professional means you're being paid to do something, yeah? And you have a duty to show up in your scope of practice, in that role. And it takes practice to learn the boundaries. And different people are going to resonate with other people. So like, I swear I'm all over the place. I'm irreverent. I'm like fucking a lunatic. And that works for people sometimes. Other people, it just really kind of rubs them up the wrong way. Bradley.
Hey, David. Yeah, I think when you were speaking about the values there, and like you just had another illustration of, if our clients are up there, then we need to stay grounded. And I think a lot of the times, even you were speaking about corporate values, but within the church itself, we have values within the church. But if you were to look at the people are not really living the values, although they say we see the values. And I think that's what keeps me grounded, is that we do have the values. We all agree to the values, but we all kind of want to live the values differently.
So
let's stay grounded to those values, though.
Let's talk about your church. Let's talk about the environment. Let's talk about the system that operates around your church, and how that institution is doing. So what are some of the values of your church?
Well, so some of the values is just the way in which we love one another. That we always stay grounded within the word, because that's our foundation of truth. And then is that we live in community with one another. That means we share life with one another. And I think for just those few alone, people take it in a different way. So we'll say we hear the values, we see the values, but we're going to live those values out as we see fit to live those values.
Give me an example.
So let's have an example. Say me and two people within the values of community. Let's say community. Yep. So we believe that we share with one another in essence, not only our highlights, but our lows together, and we walk with each other, where the other person will feel, no, but I'll only share my highs with you. You don't need to know my lows.
Okay.
But then that's not us living life together. Yeah, so I think that's always the biggest thing. And when you were speaking, it made me realize that some people, when Mark was speaking about also with your father, and then maybe you need help in some way, but your father won't allow you to go for that help because you might just bring out stuff about him, and that's why people rather stay away from the coaching, from psychology and things like those, because I can't actually speak what is happening within my family, because that's kind of our stuff. And then it never actually comes to a point where they can grow, or they can go from a point of recovery or move towards wellness. It's because they want to keep things in the dark just for them to know.
So what are you going to do to address this?
Well, I think me personally, I spend a lot more time with individual people. And then there's certain peoples that I know that work well together, and those I work together with. So it's a lot of working one-on-one with people.
Mark?
I wanted to share the fact that when I came to the space, we have a whole week that's dedicated to spiritual principles. Things like honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, humility, self-discipline, all of these things that I felt in my active addiction, I lacked in my active addiction, and now these are principles that I wanted to apply to my recovery. And what I was very intrigued by or curious about is that I found that a lot of people that come to the space, they are aware of these values, of these principles, but don't necessarily understand them or how they apply to the life. It's like, oh, okay, I need to be honest. And then they come into a space and they're totally in denial, or don't want to acknowledge the extent of their problem, or can't be vulnerable enough to share what's really going on. And then they'll have they're not open-minded to what are the resources they can use, or they're not willing to, they'll do bargaining. So I'll let go of this, but I'm still wanting to use this to help me get clean. So that was interesting for me to, I think it would be something valuable to have in a process of coaching, where I make the client understand the principles and the values that they need to really be mindful of when they are, I don't know, like thinking now I'm losing train of thoughts a little bit, but yeah, that's my thought.
Losing train of thought. All right. Maybe that's a good time for us to take a break. Should we take a 7-minute break and come back on top of the hour? Does that work for everyone? Yeah? Okay, cool. See you at what time's it going to be your side? 11 o'clock? Is that right? Okay, see you all at 11. Thanks. Right, who's back? Anyone? Nee. Okay, David, check in with Joy. I'm going to take Kayleen. She's just taken a mouthful of food. No, Bradley, do you want to go?
Bradley checking in with excitement. Del Rey?
Del Rey, I am checking in with enthusiasm.
Are you taking Doro?
I'm going to tag Joshua.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Sorry, I swallowed something down the wrong part right before I joined. Okay. Josh checking in, feeling good, feeling calm. Yeah, and feeling excited to be here. And I'll tag Kayleen. Don't take a bite of your food. I'm tagging Kayleen.
Kayleen checking in, feeling connected and grateful. And just good all around. I'm going to tag Mark.
Hi, I'm checking connected, motivated, compassionate, and curious. So I want to ask a question when everyone is gone. I'm not sure who hasn't gone because I was in the bathroom. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm checking in present, David.
Cool. I'm checking in. Yeah, juggling. So let's hear your question, and then you can tell us what the answer is to the question, Mark.
okay, well, I have no idea what is the answer. My question was, if you have a client that you've contracted with and you are in the continuum with, and suddenly, like after the second or the third session, you suddenly feel that this person is really, I don't know, maybe you're not connecting with them, or they trigger you, or they have such they create a space where you feel almost antagonized, or it feels dysfunctional, toxic, but they seem to want to continue with the coaching with you for some odd reason. How would you respond to such a dynamic? And I have no idea what the answer is.
Yes, you do.
Sure. I don't know, would being honest with the person around your uncomforts, and talking openly about how the system seems to feel be helpful for the process? I'm asking another question there, I guess.
What does a
I think you're
container
right.
think? What does
Yeah,
it
I think you're right, Mark. I don't know, that's my natural instinct. I mean, that's something that we've been asked in like master selections for Flynn. They ask us, what would you do? And like candidates that said things like, you know, I would maybe tell them I can't be their therapist, would be posed with the question of like, okay, cool. So everyone who doesn't have the same values as you, that you don't click with, you're just not going to work with them. And then they're like, oh, no, and that made me think a lot after hearing that in selections, because we were in a group activity. And then I was like, what would I do if I was like confronted with someone that I had difficulty with? You know, I'm a people pleaser. What if someone has narcissistic tendencies? What if their misuse of substance brings out negative feelings that make me think about my own misuse, you know? And I think that brings to mind the sense of, you know, being very careful of not pushing your own experience onto them. But also what you're saying, Mark, I think is what I would do. I'd be honest with them about it, and I'd be curious. I think it's about that curiosity, and by being honest and not knowing, you have to let people you don't know, or you're not sure, you want to know the dynamic. And I think that's a difficult thing to say, because that has to be done in such a way that it doesn't seem, I don't know. I think you're right. That's what I would do. Sorry. next person.
Yeah, so personally for me, I think when I start to initially get that feeling, I think the biggest thing for me is that I am always coached as well. So I would take it to whoever's coaching me and then talk about this thing that I'm struggling with, and I normally just give it maybe another session or two, and if it's still I can't get over it, then I think the approach is for me is to talk to the person openly, like Mark was saying and Josh was saying. Like, look, this is where I'm at this moment, and you, because we don't want to hinder the process because it's something we're struggling with. Yeah, so that's normally my approach.
Delray?
Hi. Sure, this is a tricky one for me because Mark mentioned that I think the client wants to continue, but you feel more uncomfortable than the client does. Or the client doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. And for me, yeah, it's very tricky for me because then I need to ask myself, what am I entertaining? You know, why am I still dealing with this person? And I think you need to either make it or break it, you know. I personally feel. I don't know. That's my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
Sorry
Yeah,
to jump in, but
Yeah,
Delray, what you said makes I think that makes me realize that you have to ask yourself some questions. You have to say, is this discomfort something that I can deal with, in the sense of, is it going to make my work and my capabilities as a coach or a therapist or, you know, whatever you're doing, is it going to hinder my ability to help you? And being very truthful and honest with yourself around that. And then also asking, like, is it going to be good for them, you know? And I do think sometimes you being uncomfortable can be a useful thing, but only if it's not something that's going to like hinder you. So that what you just said now really opened up my mind around, like, because I sounded very like client focused, like, well, if they're okay with it, you must put up with it kind of thing. But I'm kind of like, no, there are exceptions in that. You have to be honest with yourself and realize at what you said, what am I entertaining? When you said, oh, that sounded so ominous in a way when you said it, but I really resonated with it. I was like, yo, what are you entertaining? What's going on there with that discomfort? Because yeah, I suppose it depends on the nuances of what kind of discomfort Mark's talking about. I mean, if I had a granny that's trying to get into my pants in every session, I don't know if I could deal with that discomfort, I think. So yeah, that's my thoughts around that.
So the question would be, Josh, to Mark, is that what he's dealing with, the granny?
So this is why it's really important to know yourself and what are your kind of values and beliefs, and what rocks you personally. Yeah. So personally, in all my experience, I can think of maybe 1 or 2 cases that was really uncomfortable. One was with a male pedophile, yeah, which was a bit like, "Ooh, yeah, I really don't want to be listening to this." And what the person wanted really was a priest for confession. So I'd been set up in the wrong role. Yep, somebody'd heard that I was a great guy, came here, and then actually what this person needed was something that was very much out of my comfort zone and skill set. The second client was also a white male. And this person had been drunk and driving, had killed a black woman in a taxi. and was kind of showing no remorse and was very kind of indignant and angry that how come he couldn't bribe the police to get rid of the docket and things like that. And I had such an uncomfortable feeling come up with me in the room. I just felt disgusted and couldn't do it. And that person actually came with their mother. So it was like a grown man with his mother in the room. And yeah, we're talking substance abuse recovery, but it was just too fucking so ultimately, I guess what I'm saying is I've had to look after myself, and I've got a high tolerance for dark behavior. Yeah, just basically because of my own, I feel quite comfortable in that environment because I've been around it. Does that make sense? Yeah, where a lot of people with that come from a substance abuse environment, a lot of therapists and that want to kind of go, oh no, I don't deal with this, refer, you know, this. It's a very difficult population to be working with. The antisocial behavior, the narcissism, the explosive borderline shit, the fucking trauma stuff that just leaks everywhere. Like it's a very colorful community. Kayleen, you got your hand up.
Yeah, David, I was just trying to put myself in your shoes. If a client came to me with that sort of story with the taxi incident, and I have no idea how I would actually begin to navigate that conversation. So I was wondering if you would like to share just how you sort of removed yourself from that coaching space with this individual. Was it like in the moment? Was it after? Did you kind of just go to the end of the session just for the sake of finishing the session and then have a formal acknowledgement that you think it would be best if you parted ways and didn't continue sessions? Or how did you navigate that? That must have been really difficult.
That's what I remember, it being difficult. And I remember it was a friend of mine that had made the referral, and that was a family member of that friend. So it was all kind of very murky. So I can't remember how I said it, but I just kind of said, listen, this isn't going to be working for us. We're not a good fit. When actually I just wanted to fucking strangle them and say, what the fuck, you know? So I really kind of had to manage that. So it was a lot of kind of grin fucking. Yeah, so that's kind of like, oh yes, I really understand, you know, using that language where basically you just tell someone to fuck off nicely. But it was really difficult. And then my last client that was I struggled with is black female that just wasn't shifting, and there was definitely a chemical depression there. Like a proper kind of organic, yep. And then they went off to Helen Joseph, got meds, and then their mood elevated enough for coaching to engage. So that was like 3 sessions, 4 sessions, 5, the same narrative, just a real heavy, and that's. And I've seen a lot of people. So there's been very few cases where I've just felt, listen, I can't work with you ever. Yeah. Or I can't work with you now. I can a bit later if this happens. And I guess I need to stay true to myself and to be authentic. But the sex stuff does trigger me at times. Yeah. I'm going to say I'm sort of okay with adult perverse sex that's kind of consensual, but when there's minors involved, there's like, fuck no, like that's not that's not okay for me. Right, Mark, thanks for bringing that into the container. Okay, so we're learning about the system. Yeah. What would you do in that system, Mark?
In the system of where I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, so some of the cases I did, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, I took a systemic view and like this guy needs a pastor or a priest. Maybe I'll
mm.
phone Bradley. Maybe Bradley's the right sort of. Maybe his community
Mm,
cannot. I can't help you, but I do know someone who's really
mm.
good.
Well, if I can share, then I feel like similar to you. Maybe it's because of my background in my addiction and stuff like that regarding sex and, like you said, the perversion of adult sort of sexual encounters. I think I'm quite open and uh, to dealing with those kind of matters, but I also have my limits and my boundaries that I can't be dealing with sort of minor stuff or a rapist that isn't like, you know, feeling any remorse or like those kind of levels of being unwell, I think are just things that are will always be out of my league. Never, not even something I can sort of like try to be curious to see if I can manage with them. I think there would be limits to what I would I'm trying to think of the word when you have a specialized field of something that you're doing. You know, like I wouldn't even. I don't even think I would refer people in this cases. I'd be like, I have no idea what to do. That's not my area of expertise. I wish you all the well, all the best for the future. Sayonara.
So Mark, I mean, certainly the kind of the gay scene, the crystal meth scene, the Tina scene, there's a lot of stuff that goes on there which I'm quite comfortable with being a kind of heterosexual male. And when people are acting out in ways under the chemsex scene, there's often a lot of remorse afterwards, like oh fuck, I can't. And then to be able to create a space, a loving, compassionate space, is really vital in meeting that human where they're at. There's
Oh, sorry. I just you triggered this thought that I had the other day is that especially in the gay community where when it comes to drugs specifically, it seems like the boundaries or the inhibitions that people seem to have just keep getting pushed further and further and further. And we have stuff like open relationships, multiple partners, and I'm never shocked to hear something that someone is suddenly turned on by or whatever the case is in their addiction. And then now, especially for myself, being in the culture of recovery, I'm not innocent when it comes to trying to push the limits. But now that I'm in recovery, it seems like I want all the vanilla. I want the connection. I want to deepen connection with people. And so I've had to work through my shame and guilt around certain behaviors or experiences that I've gone through. But now I see it more as it was an experience. It's given me lived experience. But yeah, there are some really, really dark ventures that seem to be happening within our community that I'm sure would be a source of great mental depression or whatever the case is for some people wanting to come into recovery.
And recovery, we really need to make it easy for people to access, and not to kind of re-stigmatize. Yeah, it's I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, well, what does the rest of the container think?
So I think you do it on a case-by-case basis. And you you get supervision when you're not sure. And depending on the environment you work in, sometimes you don't have a choice. When people are contracted into rehabs and contracted into programs, you don't always have a choice. Like Mark, you were saying earlier, as whether you want to work with them or not. You know, so I mean, there was an incident at the clinic many years ago where I felt very abused by a group of clients, and you know, because business is business, I took 2 weeks leave until the container had moved through. There was a situation where one of the staff was physically assaulted by a client, you know, and rallied the other clients in the clinic, and it became a whole thing. And I went on 2 weeks leave because of that. You can't really discharge an entire clinic. It doesn't make the best business sense. You know, so even with, you know, what you bring now, Mark, is sometimes we need to be the bigger person, you know, and lean into the wellness, because I have integrity around the contracts I have with certain clients, with all my clients, you know, and unless they've really, really crossed the line, I've fired a client for being sexually inappropriate with me. I ended the coaching relationship. I just said, I can't. He sent me inappropriate photos. I cancelled. I messaged him. I said, I'm sorry, following this, I can't. You've crossed the boundary. Like, I'm not okay with it. I suggest you find yourself a new coach or engage with someone who can support you with your sexual proclivities. And if you need a number of someone, I'm more than willing to provide that for you. But, you know, the coaching relationship is over. And he was a referral from my best friend. He was one of her best friend's husbands. You know, so I think we do it on a case-by-case basis. We continue to get supervision, you know. I have no choice but to show up this afternoon in the group container. I don't have a choice, not really. So yeah, you kind of figure it out. And if you're not sure, ask David, because he's really good at, you know, he's really good at sharing his wisdom around this kind of thing.
And I would say that's the key to it. It's not that I've got particular wisdom around it, but it's more about like talking about it with colleagues and not carrying this stuff alone. Yeah. And you'll notice Leanne's language was very kind of, yes, it's not appropriate. I would have said, fuck off, you fucking pervert, you know. And that's the sort of language that you can't use. But that's what I'm kind of thinking. It's like, fuck. And we got to have compassion as well. Yes, Leanne.
Just because I know but just to stay professional. When I'm very, very triggered, I can want to say, take your shit and fuck off. I don't need you in the space. I don't need to sit here and listen to your bullshit. Fuck you, you're sick. And I don't say that. You know what I mean? Because we don't have to be reactive when we're triggered. Yeah, I don't have to say what's on my mind just because I'm in a state of fight or flight. I need to still be able to try. It doesn't matter how much my hands are shaking. I need to try as far as possible to stay as grounded, present, and professional as I can. We really what I want to do is use the most revolting language and be like, I don't care how this fucking works out. You know, you can fuck right off. But I can't do that. There are considerations. There is my professional reputation, for one, which I've worked very, very hard at for 10 years, that I'm not going to hand over to some person who's abusive towards me. You know? So it's hard. It's a hard question. It's a hard situation. You know, it's hard when you come up against these scenarios.
Delray, just before you jump in here, I'm going to check out. I need to check out a bit early. Leanne's going to hold the space. Thank you all for a wonderful container. Those of you that were here for 9 weeks, next week you'll be halfway through. So it's like you'll be in Carlsberg, driving from Joburg to Cape Town. You're pulling in at that Carlsberg stop just before you take that route down to Lanesburg. And Delray, congratulations for leaving Joburg. You've just come up to, what's that first toll gate? Grasmere Plaza or something, I don't know. But anyway, lots of love, everyone. Well done, huh? This is a great container. And Leanne, thank you for everything you do, and look after yourself.
Thank
The
you.
world needs you. All right, everyone. See you next week. Thanks, huh?
Yeah. Delray, you have your hand up.
I did, and I've already forgotten half of what I wanted to say. Sorry. Yeah, you were talking about, sorry, you spoke about like inappropriacy here with the clients. It's very difficult to, because that's what I was talking about earlier, you know, like taking on everybody else's stuff and forgetting about myself in the process. And like that as well, you know, like allowing that to happen. And I now know that like my no needs to be my no, you know, my boundary is set. And I've experienced that with some ladies as well. And it's to my own detriment, you know, allowing them to take advantage, and because I need to help them and I need to serve, and you know, but at the end of the day, it's just, if it doesn't, it needs to be mutual. And if it doesn't serve me either, and I feel uncomfortable about it, if my spirit doesn't agree with it, or my soul doesn't agree with it, or my heart, then I should know straight away to cut ties, and not to feel guilty, you know, to refer them to somebody else, or just to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you because of this. Like to just stand my ground and actually define like why I cannot help them.
Sorry, there was just something that came up. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most essential elements of what you guys all do here, whether it's in the psychology, coaching, counseling, is you need to take care of yourself, and your client's recovery is not your responsibility. It's just not. Whether people get well or don't get well is not your responsibility. I've worked with hundreds of people over the years. Some people get well, some people don't. Okay. I don't think it says anything about who you are or we are as coaches or therapists. Not everybody gets well, and not everybody's prepared to take that level of accountability, agency, autonomy, responsibility to be well. And that's not on you. If David was talking about it earlier, it's about being able to stay grounded whether or not your clients are doing well. If one of my clients relapses, it's not on me. I don't feel like a better or worse coach if my clients are relapsing or not relapsing. You know, I do the work that I do, and I show up the same way for everyone. And then the onus is on the person sitting in the group or sitting across from me to do the work. It's not my responsibility. You know, I sleep fine at night. Regardless of how people are doing. when people attack me or are inappropriate with me or cross boundaries, and that impacts me, that's a completely different thing to whether or not my clients are doing well or not. You know, I'm not really available after hours, as an example. I'm just not. I'm very, very clear about that. Have 10 people in your inner care circle. I'm happy to be one of them during office hours. I don't take calls and answer messages late into the night from my clients. I don't believe that's my professional responsibility, as an example. If you're a sponsor or a lay counselor or you offer pastoral care and you agree to be available in that space, then it's a completely different thing. But I contract with my clients to be available during office hours, as an example, you know, because it is so important to be able to take care of ourselves in the space and not to think, you know, the more available I am to people, the longer I am, the more I extend myself. You know, we chatted about this a bit last week about those professional boundaries. It's really, really, really important that you hold the line. And if you're working with people or in organizations where that's not being honored, then it's your choice what you do with it. You can stay in the situation, you can stay with the client, you can stay in the program or as a member of staff, or you can make a change. You know, I don't know what anyone else's experiences or if anyone has any comments around that. Bradley.
Yeah, and I think you're speaking about the boundaries and clients and that, and I think for me it's always a big thing is clients don't know what our boundaries are or what my boundaries are unless I let them know what it is. And I think most of the time we ourselves are not clear on what our boundaries are, so we allow things. And like Mark was saying, is that clients will push your boundaries, and if you're not firm on your boundaries, then they will just continue pushing it. Yeah, so I think that's just one thing for me. Is thanks for mentioning it, actually, just to reaffirm, to be clear on my boundaries, because that's my safe space.
Sorry, it's your professional responsibility. People are like, my clients don't respect me. They phone me at all hours of the night. I'm like, do you tell your clients that? No. I'm like, well, then tell your clients that you're not available after hours. You know, if it's a real crisis emergency situation, my clients know that they can reach out. So if I do hear from a client, but somebody phoned me at 9 o'clock on Sunday night, somebody I'm not really working with, they're a move-through client from the inpatient program. They haven't started attending the outpatient program yet. I'm not taking that call, not at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. You know, it's just I communicated regularly to my group, you know, because it's important that you're taking care of yourself. And clients will take if you don't have strong boundaries. And if you're not sure what your boundaries are, a very good place to start is taking some time to consider your own needs, wants, and values. We chatted a little bit about value. What are your values? You know, what are your professional values? What are your professional needs and wants? If you want to be someone who's available to people 24/7, 365, that's great. It's a choice that you make. But if you don't want that and you don't communicate it and people take advantage of it, you will become resentful and you will burn out. Don't be scared to tell people what's okay and not okay. You know, it's very, very, very important that you take care of yourself in this space. You know, for me, I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to work this afternoon. I haven't decided. I think I should. I think I should show up. I think I should stand my ground, you know, but also I'm very raw and very emotional. So I don't know yet, you know, I just don't know. But and there's all those different sides of the situation to consider. So you're allowed to look after yourselves and you're allowed to put yourselves first. Just because you're a psychologist or a counselor or a coach doesn't mean you have to be freely available to everybody all the time, regardless of their behavior. You know, who else has got something they'd like to comment around on this or something else?
No, I think it's important that, I mean, when I worked at the Psychoanalytical Center straight after honors for a year, unpaid, and like really, really brutal work that I don't think I was trained to do. Intake work. I mean, I heard a lot of really, really awful stuff. And although they did end up setting me up with a psychologist, that was like towards the end of the year. So I mean, I went in very cocky, being like, I know what this work entails. I know what it requires. I know that it's tough. I know I'm going to hear awful things, but I don't think I really truly knew myself, because hearing it day in and day out, hearing a story is not the same as someone telling us the story to you if it happened to them. There's something so impactful about that. And it slowly ended up tearing me away. And I think what I ended up telling myself was just that, well, this is the work, this is what it requires, and you have to do it, and you have to push yourself and push those boundaries. And it ended up just hurting me to the point where I was so burnt out towards the end. I don't think I was serving that organization at all. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough thing. I think for me, it means admitting you're weak and you're incapable to stop. And it's a hard thing to unlearn, you know?
Yeah. And knowing and doing are not the same thing. I know the work is going to be hard is not the same as doing the hard work. You know, I posted that video last week in the group. It was a presentation about trauma. I don't know if any of you got the opportunity to watch it. Trauma and addiction. I post, or maybe the week before. It was called Recognizing and Interrupting the Effects of Intergenerational Trauma by Carolyn Coker Ross. I posted it into the WhatsApp group. I recommended that you all watch it. But she talks about the fact that I think it's 67% of counselors, etc., that work in substance use facilities suffer from vicarious trauma. And that's the trauma when you start to experience trauma from listening to other people's accounts of trauma. So it has an impact, and it also depends on your level of empathy. Does anyone in the group know the Enneagram? The 9 numbers of the Enneagram. It's a personality typing system. There's a number on the Enneagram, which is the 2, the carer. And the world of counseling and psychology and coaching is full of 2s. People who want to take care of each other, want to help other people, are highly empathic, but you also need to be able to take care of yourself. I'm not a 2, but just understanding that this work has an impact. And it's okay to say no sometimes. I'm sorry, I'm not available for a call. I don't have capacity for a session. I'm taking the day off. Let's circle back to this when I'm not available. And it's okay to refer clients on. I mean, if any of you ever need it, I have a huge professional network. Not everybody that I know personally, whether it's for eating disorders or sexual disorders or trauma or I have made it my business to get contact numbers from people couples counselors, child therapists, who work in those spaces, because just referring someone to a psychologist, just because someone's a clinical psychologist doesn't mean they work with trauma. You know, just because someone's a counselor doesn't mean they work with couples. There are people, and I think the word you might have been looking for earlier, Mark, was niche. Is not everybody has a niche. I get referrals from psychologists around addiction, you know, because it's not their field and it's part of the work you do. But there are dozens of disorders in the DSM-5. Not everybody is a professional in every type. I've even got a therapist who I refer to for personality disorders because that's his area of expertise and interest. You know, so it's okay to refer on. You know, it really is okay to refer on. And it's really, really important to get supervision. You know. And it's not weak, Mark. I mean, Josh, it's not weak to be able to say this case is too much for me, this work is too much for me, this space is too much for me. You know, it's not weak. It's very, very, very courageous to be able to put up your hand and say, this is too much for me. Josh?
Yeah, I think that the thing that I battle with the most is not really knowing what is too much for me until it is. And I think that scares me a lot because I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things I can really tolerate quite well. And then sometimes like things hit me. Like I thought I could handle anything. And then David brought up a few examples. I was like, oh shit, I don't know about that. And it just, yeah, I think I do
But
need
you
to take time to reflect on those values and things, you know?
Yeah, it's important, but you don't know because I've never had to work in either of those sort of scenarios that David talks about. You know, everybody encounters different scenarios along the way. People often ask me about suicide, but what do I do if my client is suicidal? You know, I've dealt with a lot of suicides over the years, primarily because I work in a treatment center. Okay. A lot of people who run private practices don't have that experience. So people say to me, but what if a client's suicidal? I'm like, well, then you ask them, you explore, you find out how, or if they have made a plan about how to kill themselves, you make sure you have a case of, in case of emergency, you know, you make sure that your administrative contracting is done so that if somebody poses a threat to themselves or others, you know who to call. You know, that's the admin that David was talking about. I've written coaching contracts from everybody I see individually, and I have clinic contracts with everybody I work with in the outpatient program. And that includes an in case of emergency, a person I can contact if. The way you find out whether it's too much is you've got to keep checking in with yourself on an ongoing basis. How am I doing? Is this adding value? Isn't it adding value? Is it helping me? Isn't it helping me? Is it helping them? Isn't it helping them? You know, ongoing self-evaluation and self-reflection is so important. And sometimes we get burned out. You know, there's a lot of trauma in substance use. You know, and that vicarious trauma is a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing. The stories and the narratives and the experiences that people have are sometimes hard to listen to. You know, so constant checking in with yourself. If you're in therapy, stay in therapy, even if it's only once a month. You know, work with the other coaches in the container around this specific thing. What are my professional needs, wants, and values? What are my professional boundaries? Before you start running a private practice or seeing clients, know before. You know, don't be blasé about it and be like, yo, I don't need supervision. I don't need therapy. I don't need coaching. Everybody needs supervision, therapy, and coaching. You know, on an ongoing basis. And the more you can afford, the more privileged and blessed you are. you know. So don't discount that for a minute. If you're constantly checking in with yourself, Josh, you will know when it's too much. You know, if you journal, if you reflect, if you meditate on an ongoing basis, you will know when you're getting to that point. And unfortunately, in the kind of culture and the financial times we live under, sometimes it's difficult to say I need to take a week off. Sometimes it's impossible. You know, and then you've got to try and find other things to support you on the way. I don't know how that lands with the rest of you. Nothing? No one?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got something.
Okay, Dora.
Thanks, Leanne, and thanks, Joshua. You know, I always take my hats off to people that I hear like have studied and have like honors and stuff because I couldn't do that, okay? But I still think that I think that if we've been, well, let me speak for myself. I think if I've been in addiction, I'm an addict, an alcoholic, in recovery, I still take that that same thinking into recovery, you know, that same addictive thinking in. It's like all or nothing, black or white, you know. And and I always think I'm indestructible and I'm immortal and I can take on so much more than everybody else. And I can't. You know, I need to get to a point where of balance where I'm looking after myself and others. And it's very difficult because I grew up as an adult child. So,
All I can say to that is that's where the continuous ongoing personal development work goes. You know, nobody's indestructible. Nobody can do it all. Nobody can take it all on. Nobody, you know. If you know and you have an awareness and a consciousness of where your work lies, then you can do the work. You know, but I say to my clients all the time, the work is not this. The work is not the container. The work is not the coaching session. The work is when you go and you integrate into your life. So whatever that looks like for you. If I go to therapy, that hour of therapy is not the work. The work comes after the therapy session when I integrate what I've talked to my therapist about, you know, how I respond and react in situations outside of a container. Not in containers is where the work is initiated or activated, but it's not the work. You know, I've been saying that for 10 years. I don't think people believe me. They're like, but I go to AA twice a week. I'm like, it's not the work. You know, the work happens when you leave the container, when you leave the treatment center, when you leave the coaching session. That's the work. You know, so we keep doing the work. Recognizing where we need to change is not change. There's 4 A's in the process of change. The first one is awareness. I become aware that I need to change. The second one is acknowledgement. I acknowledge where I need to change and the things that I need to do to change. The third A of change is acceptance. I accept that I need to change. I accept that there are areas that I need to make changes in. And the fourth is action. And without action, there is no change. Whether that's for you or it's for your clients. So it's awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, action. You know, if you don't act, change doesn't happen. Nobody thinks themselves well or imagines themselves sober or, you know, we don't, sorry, with respect, we don't manifest boundaries. we take the action of putting boundaries in place. I can't just think these are my boundaries and then suddenly everybody respects my boundaries. So it's the work. It's the work. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes to go, so we're going to start wrapping up. My invitation to you in terms of a little bit of homework, if you want to do it, is go away and think of your professional needs, wants, and values. You know, what are you trying to achieve in the space in terms of that? If we know what our needs, wants, and values are, we can start to put boundaries into place. Without that, I don't believe boundaries are possible. You know, without that, I think it's very, very hard to have boundaries. So yeah, I'm going to encourage you all. If you want a little bit of homework, I never give homework. As you've probably already heard me say, is recommend, invite, encourage. That's absolutely up to you. I'm not a teacher, I'm a coach. And on that, we're going to start checking out because I do have another call shortly after 12. So Mark, why don't you start the checkout and then bounce it across? If there's anything you've learned and observed today, please share that in your checkout. There's only 5 or 6 of you today.
Mark, checking out, very grateful. I really gained a lot from all the emotional sharing of in the space. It's, I mean, even though we coaches and we're trying to, build this or develop a skill, I feel that we are still real people at the end of the day that go through real struggles. And
we definitely are still real people.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, nobody's an alien, hopefully. But yeah, I love the authenticity of the space. And it is really, really helpful. I'm gaining a super amount of insights. Yeah. So I will tag Kayleen.
Thanks, Mark. So Kayleen checking out, feeling grateful and just all around good. Sorry, I'm going to use that all the time because that's genuinely how I'm feeling. I'm really grateful for everyone being so candid and for sharing so openly. And I've learned so much from the container today as well. And I'm really grateful, Delray, that you're also part of the container now, because I think you add so much value in terms of the practical experience and the insights that you bring to the table as well. And so your comments about the adult child, growing up as an adult child, really resonated. I'm actually busy reading a book on being an adult child. For those who don't know what that means, it's when you sort of your conditions that you grew up in have led you to become almost, you had to grow up very quickly and you had to almost feel responsible for those around you when you didn't actually have the emotional capacity to do so yet at your given age. And so you spend the rest of your life almost feeling like a child when you're an adult, and you had to be an adult when you were a child, and when you're an adult, when you're finally an adult, you feel in some ways very, very vulnerable and very childlike, because it was almost like a part of your childhood that you've lost. And so what I just wanted to tie that in with is your client's recovery is not your responsibility. That's what you said earlier, Leanne. And I think that's so important to just echo in light of the whole adult child scenario, where as an adult child, you're kind of hardwired to want to swoop in and help everyone solve their issues and be there for them, and like almost give and give and give as much as you can and just be there for everyone. But that can be very debilitating when you realize that someone's journey isn't looking like you hoped it would, or you feel like you're not doing enough for them. And I mean, as an adult child, you can't give enough. You don't have limits. You just keep on giving. And it's so beautiful, but it's also important to remind ourselves that it's the other person's journey is not our responsibility, even though we're wired to think so. So that's my message. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'll tag Bradley.
Thanks, Kelly. I think I'm sitting here and all I'm feeling just like, I think that's the feeling I'm having right now, is that Mark and Kaylin said the word. It's been really insightful this morning, and it's just it's reaffirmed The thing for me is just of boundaries. And I think the thing when you were speaking about Leanne is that we can't be everything to everyone. And I think a lot of the times I do find myself slipping into that, where you try to be everything to everyone. So thanks for the insightfulness for this morning. It's just to realize it once again and reaffirm that I'm not that person. So I'm going to tag Josh. I think you.
I'm checking out, feeling the same as Bradley. Big sigh of relief. It's like hard to put a word to that. It's not really relief. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, whoa, like it feels intense. My biggest takeaway from today is how taxing this work can be and how important it is and what professionalism can look like in this work and how that does include self-care. I think that's a very big takeaway for me. Yeah. And I'm going to tag Delray.
I'm just going to thank everyone for this session and group. I'm just feeling very blessed and yeah, got a lot out of it, and wishing everyone a wonderful week forward.
Who hasn't checked
And
in?
tagging Mark, obviously.
Mark.
I'd have checked out, so I think it's just Leanne.
Okay. All right, guys, have a good week. See you back here next week. We've hit the halfway mark, which is great. Yeah, just keep working through the manual, watching the videos, exploring the resources. If you didn't watch that presentation that I posted in the WhatsApp group on intergenerational trauma, I'm going to post it again because there is a section where she talks about substance use professionals. And other than that, thank you for your time and go well. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
Leanne. Bye.